One man, one mission, to rid the world of chronic anxiety once and for all. The Anxiety Guy, Dennis Simsek, shares his personal transformation from living a life filled with overwhelming worry to becoming a full-fledged positivity machine. A leading authority in generalized anxiety, Dennis gets to the truth of your mental health challenges and sets you on a path to transforming each and every area of your life. Here he is, the one and only, the Anxiety Guy.
Hi everyone, and welcome to episode number 36 of the Anxiety Guy podcast. Thank you for subscribing to this podcast. We make all these videos every Monday for you, the anxiety sufferer who's looking for a CBT practitioner, a life coach that can fill in some of his experiences and some of his suggestions and hopefully make a difference in your life. Now head over to Facebook and like that page under the Anxiety Guy, because all our updates will be done through that page there, guys. And thank you for being a part of this podcast. Thank you for being a part of this excellent community, and thank yourself for making the decision to not stay living in a stale life and taking action and putting these suggestions into your life and not seeing the world as black and white, but seeing it in a more open-minded way. A lot of you out there know that I am definitely not anti-medication. I am definitely not anti-doctor or anti-psychologist. All those things have a time and place, but when we start to head down one road as our first line of treatments in today's world, and we tend to get caught up in those things, we tend to run from our fears and hide from our fears and run towards anti-anxiety medications and such, we will always live a life of fear, right? And this podcast is there to show you a new pathway, show you a new road, show you a new outlook as far as what your anxiety means, what you can take some of the good things from your anxiety, guys, and start to put in some natural ways to overcome your condition. And we all have different levels of anxiety. Some of us have, just become curious of these symptoms that we're experiencing, some of these thoughts these thought patterns that we're going through, some of the belief systems we hold that currently drive our behaviors, right? So some of us are just starting with this anxiety journey, and then some of us have suffered for years, right, and decades. And this podcast is for everybody. It really is. And today we're looking at the positive side of anxiety. A lot of times when we say anxiety, we always give it this negative label. And when we give it this negative label, we tend to try to push our anxiety away. We tend to hide from it. We tend to do everything we can to kind of head in a different road from what our anxiety might give us, right? So today we're going to look at some of the positives, guys. And I want you guys to understand that anxiety is actually a very, very important emotion, and it's cultivated through our evolution. It's a part of us, right? And in fact, anxiety can actually give you these ninja-like advantages when you need it the most. For example, when a car's coming at you, we're the first people that will be able to quickly get away and get that fight or flight response running right away and kind of run away from certain fatal situations. And that's just one real awesome benefit to having a certain amount of anxiety. Now, the important thing to understand, guys, is that there's a certain sweet spot with anxiety, and this has been studied over and over through scientists and such. And that sweet spot, guys, there's a certain, if you think about a graph, right? And that graph has the levels of anxiety where, let's take it 0 to 10. 0 is just basically no anxiety, no worries whatsoever, and then 10 is this person who's constantly very stressed out, not stressed out, but more anxious, right? Really looking at the future outcomes right away. If we look at that graph and we kind of look at the performance side of the graph, so on the bottom there's the levels and on the side there's the performance, we tend to go, as our anxiety goes up, if we can stay around a 6 or a 7, what tends to happen is a lot of times our performance starts to get better. It starts to become more positive. It starts to become more beneficial to us. Now, think about this in a way where you are giving a speech, right? You're out there, you're giving a speech, and all of a sudden your anxiety kicks in, and before it gets to the point of 10 where it's absolutely debilitating and it's taking over your speech, that sweet spot of around 6, 7, or even 8 is actually where you want to be if you're giving a speech, if you're taking part in a sport activity, if you're working out, if you're, even if you're in the grocery store. If I got 6 or 7 type anxiety, I can do those things very productively, right? Instead of being too high or kind of being caught up, I can look at my anxiety in a different way. I can look at the benefits of it. And one of the things that really helped me was to really get this idea that my perception of my anxiety could be different, right? I could view my anxiety as something that's debilitating, that's taking over my life, or I could see what kind of ways I could use it to benefit me in my life. And one of those ways was to play better tennis. It was in the moments of stress or tough points or whatever it may be, instead of running from anxiety and going, oh my goodness, I hope these symptoms don't pop up, I said, you know what, I'm going to use that for fuel. So what I did, and Michael Jordan talks about this a lot, he talks about in the face of fear, he could go 2 ways, and a lot of times he used his inner fears to motivate him, to push him, right? And even though the feelings can be unpleasant for a lot of people out there, we can use them as drive to perform better and to perform at our best. So understand that you can use your anxiety, guys, as motivation. When you wake up in the morning, instead of going, oh, I hope, XYZ doesn't happen to me, we're looking at the future, we can also go, you know what, I can use this. I can use this built up energy, this built up adrenaline for myself. I can use this right now in this moment instead of internalizing the thoughts, internalizing all those scary situations. I can actually go for a run. I can get really pissed off at my anxiety. I can really use it for good. I can use it to strengthen myself. I can run up hills really quickly. Whatever it may be that you want to do, whether it has to do with working out or career or anything, you can use anxiety for motivation and inspiration a lot of times. So that kind of perception, that new outlook is absolutely vital in your recovery, guys. The other thing is your anxiety is actually trying to tell you something. So when we live in reaction, when we start to go, we have a symptom, or I'm scared of something, or I want to avoid something, a lot of times we don't take the deeper message that our anxiety is trying to tell us, right? Anxiety actually shines a very, very bright light on situations that are problematic in our lives, and we all know that. It can actually help you decide if actions need to be taken. So, for example, you're feeling anxiety, there's a deeper underlying message your anxiety is trying to give you. It's telling you that you need to deal with something at a deeper level. You need to either become more educated in some way. You need to handle something in a different way, right? So there are certain messages that your anxiety is giving you that a lot of times we tend to skip and we tend to avoid, and we tend to not really see, right, at a deeper level. So understand that these messages, guys, can be incredibly helpful in your life. If you start to feel those feelings coming up, stop yourself for a second and go, what is this trying to tell me? And a lot of times you're going to find that your overall outlook as far as the fears that you currently have in your life start to change, right? Another one, guys, is that anxiety can help you to make better decisions. There is a lot of evidence out there that shows anxiety can enhance the attention you pay to certain information. So I really, with anxiety, what we tend to do is we tend to really narrow down each and every type of information that we get. Now remember that our minds always do 3 things with information. We delete things, we distort things, and we generalize things. These are things that we normally just do, right? They're hardwired, they're programmed into us. And a lot of times with anxiety, a lot of people tend to delete certain aspects of a certain situation, or they tend to distort a situation. They tend to change it depending on their belief systems and their experiences. But we tend to look at every little detail, and that's a very good thing. With anxiety, when it almost turns into an OCD type thing, but at least for me, as I look back, it was really cool that I could take an information from someone, take something, and kind of go, you know, what are the main aspects of that thing? What are the little details in that thing, you know? And I would make a really firm, excellent decision based upon all those little factors that I took into consideration. Right? So your decision making actually gets better with anxiety, right? When you're at that peak performance, that sweet spot level that we talked about, when you're around a 7 or 8, your decision making actually gets better, right? Think about it in the opposite way. Let's think about it in terms of not having anxiety and being someone that, you know, completely lives off of, you know, being I don't want to say calmly, right? But think about the opposite side of anxiety. And these people are slow decision makers. In fatal accidents, they don't respond as quickly, you know, and there's a lot of benefits to having a little bit of anxiety, guys. And I want you guys to understand that. So better decision making is one of the things. I also want you guys to really truly understand that, and I'm going to go back to a part of my life here as well. When we have these symptoms and when we have these self-conscious things that kind of bug us on a daily basis, our sweating, you know, we tend to sweat profusely. We tend to have these shaky fingers, shaky hands. We tend to have our vision gets blurry, whatever it may be. I want you guys to understand that a lot of times those things we tend to think they're very bad, but in fact they're not as bad as we think they are, right? So someone who sweats profusely, to a lot of people out there, we look very calm, right? We look very down to earth. We look like we're in control of our body. We're in control of our mind. And a lot of times what we tend to think is very bad, and we're showing this side of us that's going to be judged very harshly, you know, the experiences, the sensations that we have, a lot of times we tend to think they're worse than what they truly are. So understand that you can take some pressure off of yourself by recognizing the idea that you're not sweating as much as you think you are. Your hands are not shaking as much as you think they are, right? So really understand that, guys. Another positive of having that sweet spot of anxiety is that it is a sign. It is a true sign that you are intelligent. You are a very intelligent person because you have anxiety. Unbelievable, right? But it really does communicate to people that you're a caring person, right? And when you're a caring person, a lot of people think very highly of you. They think that you're a very intelligent person. And there has been 2 published studies that show that people who score higher on anxiety measures also tend to perform better on intelligence tests, especially verbal intelligence. So understand that there's a ton of studies out there that can link the sweet spot of anxiety with being more intelligent. A lot of times we think we're really dumb and our memory is very slow and our focus is very bad, and we put these labels on, these perceptions of what we think is reality, but in fact it's so not true. And perception is everything. Everybody's reality is different. Someone who is currently going through anxiety right now in their lives is currently using their anxiety for good, right? They go, you know what? I mean, let's take a crazy guy like Anthony Robbins, for instance, a motivation guru, someone who has helped many people around the world, an NLP teacher, excellent. And he's making a difference in people's world. But look at him, how he's so charged up, right? And what that is that he's using that anxiety for fuel to make himself better, right? And he's making a difference in people's lives in that way. But he views his anxiety, he views that anxiousness as something that's positive, whereas a lot of people tend to look at it as something that's negative and should be put into a corner, and I hope it doesn't happen. So it's really important, guys. There are published studies out there that will let you know that you are more intelligent than you truly think you are. You are a very intelligent person. Understand that. We talked about the fear of fatal accidents. That's a huge one, and less likely to be injured because you're thinking so far ahead. People with anxiety tend to look ahead a lot and look into the details that might happen in their near future a lot. So another excellent positive thing when it comes to anxiety, guys. So I want you guys to take some of these really important aspects today that we talked about and try to reframe what you think your anxiety is. And when you start to do that, you're gonna find that you're putting less pressure on yourself, you're expecting less of yourself, the high standard that you hold for your life tends to become a little bit lower and therefore slightly more achievable. And I truly want you guys to understand that this podcast is there for you. It's there for your benefit. Gain these inspirational messages, guys. Use them in your life. Continue to develop yourself on a daily basis. Don't take life so seriously. I know it's a cliche, Dennis. You know, I've heard it before, and it's easy that you say it, but it's difficult to put into action. But think about those words that I just said. It's difficult to put into action. That's basically, I mean, if you have that kind of thought process, then it will be that, right? So it's really important that you understand, guys, that the words that come out of your mouth, the thoughts that you think, are creating your reality. For many years, for me, until I got to the point of I said, you know, enough is enough. I need to replace some of the ideas I have in my mind. I need to replace some of the beliefs I have, right? I can't stop shooting it away. It's time for me to replace those things, because the only way an idea can be overcome is to replace it with another idea. And I started to train myself unconsciously through pictures and visualization sessions and meditation, and finally get to the point where I could really control my mind rather than have it control me. So guys, make sure you're reading up on CBT, because CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is one of the best ways to overcome your anxiety disorder. Visit www.anxietyexit.com, and I'll see you guys in episode number 37. Have a wonderful day, and remember that you are more than anxiety. Bye, guys.